What's going on, y'all? Thanks for checking in the Khaliis Take. You know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell just so you can get the newest and the bonus content first. But hey, let's just go ahead and jump right in. The Lakers could be making a huge mistake by firing their head coach in Frank Vogel. Simply because the reason why I say that specifically is because when you look at the Lakers' issues, I've said before, their biggest issue is their defense. They don't play defense sound enough or for all four quarters to where it makes them effective enough to beat teams. You could blame it on Anthony Davis because of his injury. You could blame it on LeBron, just stat padding. He's older. You could blame it on Russell Westbrook because of his turnovers, which is true, and his lack thereof in regards to having winning basketball intangibles. Yeah, you can blame it on all that. But my thing is, their defense has been their biggest woe the whole season. It's been their biggest issue the whole season. They can't defend anybody. And, the reason why the Lakers are looking to move on or potentially move on from Frank Vogel by making an example out of him, by firing him or letting him go first, is because usually, as always, the coach always gets a lot of the blame when the season doesn't go well, when they don't play right, when they don't live up to expectation, when they don't, be a contender, or when a team doesn't, play to its potential. The coach always seems the one that gets the shorter end of the stick. And it's been like that in sports, especially the NBA more than any other sport, by firing head coaches when things don't go right. I mean, look at the Clippers with Doc Rivers. That whole operation didn't go right in one season, and they removed him. And, that's just the way it goes. When teams' expectations don't go right, when expectation is so high. Now, in this situation, I could see why, some people would look at it in a way of Frank Vogel being the one that has to go, because Frank Vogel, when you think about it, you can make the argument that some of his lineups and some of the things he did exploring wise with some of his lineups throughout the season has been questionable at times, when he would take Russell Westbrook out, bring him in the game, or sit LeBron down and maybe not have him in at a certain time when the game is changing, when the other team is going on a run. You can make that argument, but you can make that argument about every coach in the NBA. There's always certain parts of a game or certain instances in the game where a coach could have put in a sub or, a substitution for a certain player to stop the bleeding when the other team is going on a run, or when, another player's gas or something like that. You could sit him and get more energy out of him in the fourth quarter if you sit him a little while and let him come in the fourth and start to dominate. It's always little things like that we could talk about every head coach, where they make mistakes and some of them make the right call. But at the same time, the Lakers' issue, as I said before, was their defense. And Frank Vogel has always been known as a defensive coach. And I understand why the Lakers might be looking at that as an issue, because if you're known as a defensive-minded coach, then this team should be better defensively. Because if the Lakers were better defensively, they would be in the play-in tournament, probably, no doubt, if they had better defense. Matter of fact, if they had better defense, they probably would be 5th or 6th seed in the West if they had better defense. But they don't. And, my thing is with that, you can't teach effort. And some of these guys, when you look at them, the effort of playing defense isn't there. And some of the other guys, they just don't play defense at all. You look at a player like Carmelo Anthony, never played defense throughout his career. You look at Russell Westbrook, not a defensive guy. Dwight Howard, definitely not the defensive guy he used to be. He still can play some defense, but not at the level as he used to. And then you look at Anthony Davis, he plays defense, at times. And Anthony Davis kind of picks and chooses when he really wants to be dominant and play the way he's supposed to, even when he's healthy. And then other times he's not healthy, so he's really not accounted for. And then you got other players on there who used to be good defensive players, like they got Trevor Ariza. He used to be a really good defensive player, but that was 10 years ago or so. And you got other players on there who were just filling up space, not really playing any defense as well. And that's the problem with the Lakers, that I've seen all throughout the season. They couldn't stop anybody. They can score with a lot of teams because the Lakers would get down 10, 15, 20 points, and they'll find ways to come back and cut it to 5, 4 points, and now you have a game again. in. But the problem is they couldn't finish games off because they had no defensive stoppers or good perimeter defenders where they can, cause more turnovers and get more scoring opportunities for themselves. They just couldn't do that. And LeBron is not at the age anymore where he can just lock down a player and still give you 30 points on the other end and still carry the game home in the fourth quarter. He's not that player anymore. He can do some of that, but he can't do all those things he used to, which makes him ineffective for the Lakers at some point. Which is the reason why I say he needs to be the second best player on a team now. He needs to be a Robin on the team. He doesn't need to be a Batman because he can't carry the load and he can't finish games off like he used to. So that's a Batman's job. That's and that's not something that he can do at this time because he's gotten older, and we definitely understand that. Even though he's still playing at a supremely high level on the offensive end, he's not playing that supremely high level on the defensive end. So at least as he used to in the past. So we can't look for that there. So my thing is, with a lot of these players, I understand that they might not be defensively inclined, or some of them never been defensively inclined ever in their career. But my thing is, when I looked at the Lakers, a lot of times they played lifeless. They played with no enthusiasm. And when you play like that, you miss assignments on defense almost intentionally. At least that's the way it looks. So my thing is, Frank Vogel, I understand, if they want to let him go, but I really don't think he's the answer to their problems. I don't think letting Frank Vogel go is really going to make all the world difference. Don't get me wrong, it could make a difference if you found a way to get a better coach to replace him. But if you don't find a way to get a coach out there that's technically like a free agent or something like that, or somebody you can, get in there, if you don't find nobody as good or better to trade him, or to replace him, then will be the point of letting him go. Because like I said, a lot of games I looked at, the Lakers just didn't play with any effort on defense. I don't know if that had anything to do with Frank Vogel. To me, when you're getting paid millions of dollars, nobody has to teach you what the word effort means. You got to go out there and play your hardest and give it your all every night. And that's not something I could say that I saw the Lakers do every single night, is give it their all. Certain players, Russell Westbrook, certain players, they give you their all every single night or something like that, and some nights this year looks like he took off because he mentally checked out on this team because they just were, had a lot of drama and a lot of issues going on, things like that. But now I've been hearing things about Doc Rivers, possibly, being the Lakers' new coach and all this type stuff. So, I understand the, if that's what they want to do, if that's the direction they want to go, but I don't know if Doc Rivers would be the answer much better than Frank Vogel. Doc Rivers hasn't won a championship with a team in 10, 15 plus years, seem like, so it's been a long time since he's won a championship. Not saying he's not good enough to win one, because he has won one before, so he does know what it's like to be a champion, head coach. So you got to give him that respect. But what he done with the Clippers, and everything, it just shows, his reputation. He's a good coach, but when it comes to making adjustments and things like that, that's where, some of his talents are lackadaisical. And if that's the case, then how would he be much better than Frank Vogel? Yeah, it's possible he could be, but I don't know if changing the head coach is going to make that, because as I said before, you can't teach effort. Just because you have good defensive players on your team, or let's say you don't have that many good defensive players on your team, it's all about going out there, putting the effort in, though. Are you diving for loose balls? Are you, fighting for, to get possession of the ball, to get a jump ball call? Are you, basically playing at a level where mentally where it's like, oh, I have to try to, cause a turnover just so we can get extra possessions? Are you thinking like that? Are you playing with that type of mentality? See what I'm saying? Coaches really can't teach you those type things. You have to really kind of have those things in you, to go out there and want to play for your team and want to help your team win, because defense is where it starts. Everybody knows that. Matter of fact, when the Lakers won the championship a couple seasons ago with Frank Vogel, might I add, they played better defense. And I thought they had better defensive players because I liked Alex Caruso. I thought his defense was underrated. I think he leads the league in steals this year, or he's second or third in leading the league in steals this year. And then you had KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He could play a little perimeter defense, not the greatest defender, but he played with a lot of effort on defense, which allowed him to, cause turnovers and things like that. Then on top of that, you had more knockdown shooters because KCP was a knockdown shooter. Caruso can knock down a three. You see what I'm saying? And then, they had, Rondo that year was still, playing pretty good, knocking down some big shots whenever they needed him to. And, just overall, they played more as a unit, and they got contributions from other players at times like Kyle Kuzma and players like that. But I mean, for the most part, they had shooters around LeBron and they had guys willing to get down and get dirty on defense and at least put the effort in and try to stop the player that's right in front of you, not let him run around you and get to the basket. And then all of a sudden it's on the big man to try to stop him and draw a foul, put him in foul trouble. And now the player's going to the line for 2 free throws. At least that year when they had those players, it wasn't as easy. Those players moved their feet better. They played a little bit more sound on defense. And I think they also had Danny Green too, which was, he was still playing pretty decent defense as well. And he could knock down a three also. So, I mean, the team just fit better. So when you look at it from that perspective, Frank Vogel really isn't the problem. It's the pieces that you have around your star players. You got a bunch of older players around LeBron James, who's already old. And these older players, half of them didn't, some of them didn't play defense that well back in their day or at all. And now you're expecting them to play something or play the level that they used to play at or that they don't anymore, which is a problem on both ends of the floor. You can't expect Carmelo Anthony to score 20-something points a game. He's older now. You can't expect Trevor Ariza to put up points, or play to the level of the role player that he used to be like 10 years ago, because he was a very valuable role player about 10 years ago. I thought he was one of the best underrated defenders in the league, about 8 or 10 years ago. I mean, just on defense, he wasn't really a great offensive player, but still he had a lot of defense, and Dwight Howard was better defensively back in the day. So it's like when you look at these players, they're just really old and out of whack, and they can't play to those levels anymore. And I don't think that's Frank Vogel's fault. I just think that Frank Vogel was dealt with he was dealt with the hand that he had, and he had to work with that. And when you got a bunch of older players, you got to take it easy on them. You can't ask them to do but so much. You can't push them as hard because why? They're not younger. They're older for a reason. And this is why I said Frank Vogel, I feel like if he had more of a better fit roster, they would have definitely made the play-in tournament at the least. So, I mean, because like I said, we just saw them win a championship like 2 years ago. And even though it was in the bubble, you could say it's an asterisk. And I definitely, I respect anybody who says it's an asterisk, you know what I'm saying? Because if that's how you feel, you definitely got to go with that. Because like I said, I know a lot of players didn't want to be in the bubble and it just wasn't for them. It was not real basketball to a lot of people. And I kind of felt the same way at first. I mean, no fans, no anything. It's almost like playing open gym at a recreational court somewhere. It just didn't seem authentic. So I definitely get that. But at the same time, the Lakers did win it. So I got to give them, credit there. So, I mean, but, when you put the right pieces on a team, I feel like, the fit is much better and the gameplay speaks louder. And this is why I said, even with those type players, KCP, Caruso, Kyle Kuzma, players like that, they had Rondo, they had Danny Green, they had more, I wouldn't say, Kyle Kuzma, I wouldn't say him specifically a high IQ player, but I mean, he did contribute at times and, his points were needed. He did help. He was a part of that roster. So I got to give him that. But my point is they had more high IQ players at the time. Rondo, and you had, KCP, plays, he plays within his means, Caruso plays within his means a little bit. And then, like I said, you had Danny Green there playing within his means. You had Dwight Howard being the backup big guy to Anthony Davis, who was playing really good at the time in the bubble. So this is what I'm saying. My point is they just fit more at that time, which is the reason why they played better and they won a championship. So now if you take that logic and put it on this team now, if they had more pieces that fit, they'd be playing a lot better. They wouldn't be eliminated from the play-in tournament. They would actually have a spot in the play-in or maybe even a spot in the playoffs, actually, from the maybe the 5th or 6th seed if they had better chemistry and they had the pieces that fit. These pieces don't fit defensively, they don't fit offensively, and it's just a team put together full of a bunch of Hollywood names that don't live up to the script anymore. And that's just the way it is. So my thing is, I personally don't think that Frank Vogel was the one that they should fire or the one that they should let go. I think they should keep a defensive-minded coach like that and kind of rearrange some of the pieces that they have to get some guys in there to play with more effort, because you got to understand, it's hard to probably tell a player like Carmelo Anthony, hey, I need you to go out there and play defense, when the man never played defense a day in his life. Only thing he does is shoot. I mean, I'm actually surprised sometimes when Carmelo Anthony actually passes the ball, because every time I usually see him get it, he always shoots it. He doesn't believe in passing. So it's like, he's a very one-dimensional player, and that's the reason why I always thought of him back in the day. He was a superstar, but he was a superstar that was never going to get anywhere in his career as far as winning, because he just didn't have winning intangibles. So it's like, when you're paired with players like that who've been in the league that long a time, what is Frank Vogel to do? He can't get something out of a player that doesn't play that way, or if that's not if that's not the way he plays to help him, gain confidence as he's on the floor. And Carmelo's not that type of player. And that's just an example of what I'm saying. When you have players who don't play defense, never play defense, and who just don't know how to, you can't really teach them something like that, especially if they've been in the league 10 plus years not playing defense and they still in the league now. You can't, as they say, teach an old dog new tricks or something like that. You can't do that with certain players. And when you look at this roster, Frank Vogel can't get through to these guys. These guys do what they want to do. They've been in the league so long, they don't feel like they have to listen to anybody. And that's something that you could tell they didn't do. They didn't listen, because on defense, it looked like they skipped that part in practice when they were on the floor, and they just were an utter mess. When they had 25-point leads, they would blow those because they forgot to play defense on the other end and stop the other team and neutralize the other team, which can help them win. And that's not something that, LeBron can teach the rest of the guys, because he's too old to go out there and do it by example. And that's not something Frank Vogel can teach the rest of the guys, because half these guys been in the league so long, they don't feel like they probably should even listen to anybody like Frank Vogel, because, like I said, they got enough credibility themselves. And that's the problem with having an all-star, superstar roster like that. You got a bunch of players with a lot of big egos and not enough listening going around through the room to help everybody play at a superior level that can help them play better and put them in position to be in a play-in tournament or whatever tournament they do, or the playoffs, or whatever the case may be. And this is the reason why this year was a failure. And I personally think even if they got Doc Rivers, it would possibly be the same thing, because Doc Rivers is known for failures, and I don't know if firing Frank Vogel for a coach like him would be a better option. I'm thinking at best they might be around about the same team. They might make the playoffs, of course, with Doc Rivers. But at the same time, when it comes to those X's and O's and making adjustments and stuff like that, we see Doc Rivers is not that guy. So if it ever comes to a point they get to that, well, they might be eliminated from the playoffs simply because Doc Rivers just doesn't make good adjustments, and then they will find themselves in the same predicament, going home, not winning a championship. And everybody know with the Lakers, it's championship or bust. There's no such thing as, we made to the playoffs, we made to the second round, made to the third round. There's no such thing with the Lakers. It's championship or bust. And I don't think Doc Rivers or any other coach they can find right now would put them in better position, than what Frank Vogel could if they got better pieces on their roster. But I mean, hey, that's their decision to make, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll see how everything pans out. But hey, that's my take on everything. Leave any comments in the comment section as always. And hey, Khaliis out.